So good morning, everybody. We are going to start our practice today, as we usually do, with just some breathing and some centering. So just come to a comfortable seat. I'm sitting up on a couple of blankets here just because it's morning and my hips are a little bit tighter. We're going to spend some time today doing some hip openers and stretches, some strengthening for the hip and the pelvic girdle. But always important when we're talking about strengthening the hips, that we work on the inner muscles as well. And the inner muscles being more the pelvic floor, which is at the base of the pelvis, the transversus abdominis, which wraps around us like a girdle. It's our deepest core stabilizer. We work with the diaphragm, which is up in the upper belly. And then we work on these really deep back extensor muscles that are just sort of lining the spine and go from one vertebrae to the next vertebrae to give us a lot of stability there. So those are sort of our deepest core muscles. And then we're going to work on layering on some of the larger muscles on top of that. So first, just get settled, get into a comfortable seat where you're balanced through the pelvis, whatever that means for you, as far as sitting on blankets or blocks. If you can notice that the pelvis has basically four corners to it. And so we like to say that the pelvis, the base of the pelvis, is sort of a diamond shape. And I'll even hold my hands in this sort of diamond shape as we rock through the different parts of the pelvis. So if you do a little bit of an anterior tilt onto the pubic bone in front, you'll feel the tailbone sort of lifting away from the mat, and you'll feel an arch increasing in the lower back. And then if we start to rock back, almost like we're doing that cat back, we'll come back to sort of rest back on the tailbone. We'll feel the pubic bone kind of lifting away from the mat. And so we couple the inhale with the tilting forward, coming forward onto the pubic bone. And we couple the exhale with a rocking back. And coming back onto the tailbone, gently see if you can contract your pelvic floor muscles, which would lift and squeeze the center of the diamond. And then we'll inhale to rock forward onto the pubic bone, with expanding through the chest, maybe lifting the chin just a bit. And then exhale, gently squeeze the pelvic floor. In yoga, we call it Mula Bandha, as we rock back onto the tailbone. And as we're starting to feel these different layers of awareness, let's do one more as we inhale onto the pubic bone. Broaden through the chest, lift the chin. Exhale, gently squeeze and rock back onto the tailbone. And then we'll come back to the center of the pelvis where we're balanced between the two sit bones. So start to notice that connection side to side. We just went forward and back. Now we're thinking side to side, and rock over onto the left sit bone just a bit and come back over to the right sit bone. And we'll just gently sort of rock side to side, pressure through the left, and then pressure through the right as we're sort of drawing this line from left to right. And continue doing that a few times, feeling a little bit more lengthening through the side of the body as you go from side to side. And then come back. After you've evened out on each side, come back to rest right in the center. So that center of the pelvis is the center of the floor of the pelvis, and it's a very important deep core stabilizer. So bringing your hands onto the outside of the rib cage with your fingers, maybe they're touching in front, maybe they're just draping across the upper belly. See if you can focus on breath now as we inhale through the nose. Feel the expansion through the ribs, the upper belly, and then exhale. Maybe through the nose, maybe through the mouth. We inhale through the nose again. And this time with the exhale, see if you can slow it down just a little bit by resisting the exhale. And we'll inhale again, breathing into the upper belly, the lower ribs. See if you can feel a little bit of a broadening through the shoulders, through the chest, and we'll exhale. So just by resisting the exhale like that, we're pulling in that deepest layer of the abdominal muscles, the transversus abdominis. And let's breathe in one more time here, really expanding through the rib cage. Feel that broadening through the upper chest, breathing into the back of the rib cage even. And then exhale with the resistance, but gently tighten up pelvic floor. Then we'll inhale again. Exhale with resistance, tightening up Mula Bandha. And then one more time on your own, really feeling that integration of the deeper muscles. Inhaling and exhaling, just sort of waking them up. And then we're going to change positions now. When you finish that, we're going to come into a child's pose. I'm going to actually put my forehead on a block just so that you can hear me better. And I'm going to show how you can buffer your knees just a little bit by putting a blanket underneath your shins. You can float the knees so that the shins are under the blanket and not the knees, or you can put the knees on the blanket themselves. And then we're going to sit back so that the sit bones are reaching the heels or coming close. Again, there's always opportunities to use blankets under the feet or between the feet and the buttocks. Dropping your head down onto the block or onto the mat. And start to come into the awareness of the breath here. The breath is going to change because the eyes are blocking the belly just a little bit here. So notice as you breathe in and breathe out that you might feel a little bit more movement into Mula Bandha, into those deeper pelvic floor muscles. So take a moment just to say hello to your pelvic floor in this position. On the exhale, resist the breath by the and gently tighten pelvic floor muscles. See if you can feel that cinching sensation of the deeper abdominal muscles when you do that. So there's an inhale, an expansion, and an exhale and a gentle squeeze. And then take one more breath here. Difficult to use the gluteal muscles here. And so it's a really nice position for isolating that pelvic floor contraction with the resistance of the exhale. So I'm going to remove my block and I'm going to walk my hands over to the left side. Now in this position, seeing if you can really ground down the right sit bone, reaching the hands, both hands over to the left side of the mat. And feel that really nice expansion through the right side of the body, maybe even all the way down into the right hip just a little bit. And notice where the breath now wants to go as we change the shape of the container of the breath. The breath will find different places to go in the body. Take one more breath here. And then we'll come back to center. And we'll come over to the right side, grounding down that left sit bone into the heel. Notice if there's tightness through the left shoulder, through the left side of the body, maybe even down into the left hip. Notice where the breath naturally wants to go. And if you like, you can bring Mula Bandha into this movement here. On the exhale. Take one more breath. And then we'll come back to center and lift the hips so that they're floating right on top of the knees. And we'll come into our puppy pose. So now just really noticing that there's a natural tendency to have a little bit more of a sag in the lower back. See if you can gently squeeze Mula Bandha and rock the sit bones, bringing the sit bones down towards the heels just to get a little bit more glute activation in this position. A little bit more of the pelvic floor contracting. You might even feel that the abdominal wall tensed up a little bit more. And so releasing that tension and allowing the sag to happen, allowing the sit bones to drift up towards the ceiling. We'll inhale here, and then on the exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha, rock under just a little bit, just to get you into a more neutral spine position. And then we'll go one more time. So it's a very limited cat-cow position here. We're just learning how the breath and how the movements affect the different muscles of the core. Exhale, tucking under, sit bones down towards the heels. And then we're going to take that right arm and thread it right underneath the left shoulder. So the palm on the right hand is up, the left hand is reaching nice and long. And see if you can really feel the openness through the left side of the body. Maybe you feel a stretch on the outside of that right shoulder. And notice that the breath changes here. Sit bones are still lifting high towards the ceiling. You can come back to that awareness of breath, moving in, and Mula Bandha contracting on the exhale. We'll take one more breath here. Just notice your body. That's what we're here to do. Spend a little time with our bodies. And then come back to center with that right arm lifting, reaching nice and long. And then we'll take the left hand and thread it underneath the right shoulder, reaching long with the right fingertips. And we breathe in and we breathe out. Again, always an invitation to contract Mula Bandha, contract those pelvic floor muscles, and notice that deep cinching stability that it gives us during our breath cycle. We'll take one more breath here. And then as you come back to center, walk the hands back. And so we're in our tabletop position here. So stacking the shoulders right over the wrist, stacking the hips right over the knees. See if you can bring that right foot back so the toes are tucked under, and then pushing with the hands to get a really nice heel cord stretch. So the right leg is going to be stretching all the way back. Toes are tucked under. The arms are doing a lot of work here to push the heel back towards the wall behind you. And we feel that efforting from lots of different parts of the body, but notice the breathing at the same time. And then we'll come back with the right knee, shift your hips side to side, little tail wag. And we'll do the same thing with the left leg, just tucking those toes under, really pushing back through that left heel. Noticing that nice stretch through the left heel cord. Notice the arms in partnership, trying to help do a little bit more work here as they plant firmly and press forward. And we breathe. All that effort going on through the different parts of the body, there's always the breath. And then come back to knee down position, shift the hips from side to side if you like. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the right leg, and instead of going straight back, we're going to bring it towards the left side of the mat. Maybe you're even like knee off on the floor just a little bit. So the toes are still tucked under, but we're crossing the right leg over the left. So we're coming into almost like we're going to sit back into a pigeon, but we're not going to go there yet. So push through the hands, push into that the right toes. And then see if you can take your head and start to look around and see if you can see that right foot. And then notice when you do that, that there's a nice stretch going on through the right hip, through the right side of the body, maybe even all the way down. You feel it all the way down to the knee as we work through those fascial layers, those myofascial layers, getting the stretch. One more breath here. We'll come back to center with that right knee. Shift your hips side to side. Take the left leg, we'll slide it back over towards the right side, probably off the mat. And notice that tendency to kind of shift your whole body here, following the leg. But instead of doing that, we're going to turn towards the right and see if we can look back and see that left foot. So we're really not giving in to the tendency to tighten. We're going with that resistance or the lengthening, the opening of the left side of the body. And we breathe in and we breathe out. Take one more breath here. We'll come back to center, bringing the knees back, shift the hips side to side if that feels meaningful to you. Come back to awareness of your alignment here. And then we're going to take that right leg back again, tucking the toes under, pushing firmly into the heel, but not pushing your torso back this time. We're going to power up those arms and lift the heel straight up towards the ceiling. Now, we want to make sure that our glutes are doing the work here and that we're not just caving in on our back. So to do that, we're going to tuck the tail under just a little bit, drawing the pubic bone down towards the mat, and see if you can feel how that kicks your glutes up just a little bit. And take one more breath here, and then we'll exhale, bring the right knee down, shift side to side, and then we'll take that left leg, toes tucked under, power up the arms so they're pressing straight down now, power up the quadriceps, and we're going to lift that left heel straight up towards the ceiling. Take your mind's eye and tuck the pubic bone down towards the mat slightly. There's not a whole lot of movement here, but hopefully you could feel that it kicked up that larger gluteal muscle a little bit. Take one more breath here, and then we'll bring it down, shift the hips side to side. So with that same theme in mind, we're going to take the right leg, slide it back, but this time slide it about a foot off to the right now. So we're at a diagonal with our right leg. Sometimes in yoga, we do something called an awkward airplane. So we're going to do something real similar to that now, if you've ever done that before. And so once we're here, I want you to roll your leg out so that you're coming to rest mostly on the ball of your big toe. And notice how that feels in your hip. And then roll in so you're coming to rest mostly on your pinky toe. So the right leg is off to an angle, and then we're just rolling it in and out, noticing what it feels like in our hips. And then with a little bit of rolling out, so we're coming to rest on the great big toe on the right side. We're going to take that breath in. We're going to breathe out and gently squeeze the pelvic floor muscles to get a nice stability here. We're going to roll the sit bones down towards the floor very slightly, and then we're going to try to lift up that right leg. When we bring in all those different criteria, it makes it a lot harder to lift, as you're probably feeling. And then exhale, we're going to bring it back down, knees down to the floor, back into our tabletop, and shift the hips side to side. So we can do a yoga practice and throw ourselves through lots of different poses, but when we take that mindfulness into it and we start to feel the nuances and we really try to isolate muscles, we get a little bit more integrated and focused practice. So let's take the left leg back now. We'll try the same thing. off to about a 30 or 45-degree angle. We'll rock out so that the big toe mound is taking the pressure, and then we'll rock our leg in. So we're on the pinky toes, and just practice that a few times, feeling that nice rotation through the hips. And then when you're ready, we're gonna rest on the big toe mound. We're gonna gently squeeze pelvic floor and rock the sit bones under, and then see if we can lift up the leg. So really noticing how the outer hip muscles are popping in there. We want to keep a little bit of integration of the deeper core muscles that we talked about earlier, and hold this position. And then on the exhale, bring it back, shift the hips from side to side. All right, so let's go back into a child's pose just for a second. Give our hips a nice little stretch open before we go into our next series of poses. Take some breaths here. If you can breathe into those hip muscles that just did a whole lot of work. And then we're going to walk our hands back until we come up onto our knees, and we're going to come into a low lunge. So from this low lunge position, we're going to do it a little bit more mindfully today than we usually do, but we're going to take the pelvis, put your hands up on the crest of the pelvis here, and tuck your tailbone down. So we're going into a little bit of a posterior tilt here, just like we've been practicing in all fours as well. And then once you're here, really plant that left knee down and lunge forward over the right foot. So focus on Mula Bandha contracts gently. We're talking 20% of Mula Bandha contracting. It's not a big contraction, but you're tucking the pelvis under, and that should help your left glute max be contracting, and you feel a nice stretch through the front of the left hip. Now let's bring the arms up overhead. See if you can feel that there's a groundedness from the left knee pushing down and back. The fingertips are reaching up. And take a breath here to reach the fingertips up a little bit more. And on the exhale, we'll open up, bringing the arms down to a T and opening to the right. So we breathe in, we breathe out. There's a lot of action going here through those left glutes, stretching into the left hip flexor. Take another breath as the arms reach side to side, and then we'll lower down the left hand inside the right foot, and we'll lift that right hand up towards the ceiling. Notice the breath here, changing the shape of the container, and the breath will change as well. Take one more breath here. And then on the exhale, the right hand's going to come down on the outside of that right foot. Left hand's on the inside. I'm moving my blanket out of the way because with both hands planted here, my chest is sort of resting on that front thigh. What I'm going to start to do is start to straighten out my right leg, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling and getting a stretch into the right hamstrings. Now we're coming up into a little bit of a pyramid pose. We're going to start to try to lower the left heel down towards the mat as we straighten the right leg. And we breathe in and breathe out. Noticing breath primarily, noticing the efforting of the different muscles here as we maintain this posture. And then take your right hand inside the right foot. So now both hands are inside the right foot. We're going to start to walk your hands around towards the long side of the mat and come into a wide leg forward fold. Now here, if you point your toes in just a little bit, and firmly press your heels down. You'll get a little bit more stretch into the inner thighs. You can think about the legs sort of moving out to the side and see if you can notice that there's a really nice stretch inside the thighs. And then bend the right knee just a little bit. The right knee is gonna come to where it's balanced over the right ankle. We'll stretch just a little bit more intently into that left inner thigh. Then we'll inhale to come back to center and exhale as we stretch, bringing the left knee towards the left, coming to where it's going to be more balanced over that left ankle. Maybe not quite there, but you should feel a more intense stretch into the right adductors, the right inner thigh. We'll come back to center here. Now let's see if we can find Mula Bandha in this position. So take a breath in. Exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha, about 20% effort. And see if you can keep that contraction going as you lunge over the right foot again. And then keep a little bit of tension in that muscle as you come back to center and bend the left knee over the left foot. A lot going on here. Come back to center. And then we'll go one more time. Right knee over right ankle. A little bit of an awareness of Mula Bandha contracting. Come back to center. Left knee over left ankle. And then we'll come back to center. Walk the hands back around. So we're coming back towards our low lunge. Drop the left knee and drop the right knee and come back into your child's pose. Always an invitation to spend as much time as needed in our child's pose. And there's a lot of variations with child's pose too. So you can do what I'm doing here, which is very narrow child's pose so that my thighs are resting against my belly. You can also take the knees very wide with the toes together and sink down just a little bit more. And then this will allow a little more freedom of the belly to move with the breath. Not a right or wrong kind of thing. Both of them are good. They both have their place in our yoga practice. When you're ready, we're going to walk those hands back. We're going to come back into our low lunge, leading with the left foot this time. Take your hands up to the top of the pelvis, resting here on the top of the pelvic bones. We're going to start to rock the pelvis under, drawing those sit bones down towards the earth. Power up that right knee so there's a little bit of a backward sliding of the right knee towards the back of the mat. And then we're going to start to come forward so that the left knee is over the left ankle. You might have to do what I just did and kind of bring your left foot a little further out so that you can get the knee stacked over the ankle. And then when you're ready, lifting up your arms overhead and the dristi, the gaze up at the ceiling, if that feels comfortable, but all the while knowing that as your arms come up and you lift your head up, there's going to be this tendency to really let the back start to sag. So keep your attention on those sit bones drawing down towards the mat. Take a breath here. And then on the exhale, we're going to bring the arms out into a T. Notice how everything changes here. So you're reaching forward, reaching back, really expanding through the shoulder joints, but everything is pulled to center here. See if you can touch base again with those right glutes. And take one more breath. On the exhale, the right hand comes down, left hand lifts up, and we stack the shoulders on top of each other. And we breathe. Breathing in and breathing out. Pressing down will help you lift up just a little bit higher and get a little bit more rotation through the trunk. And that's true if we have Mula Bandha lightly engaged here. That will naturally allow the rotation to happen just a little bit higher up through the trunk. One more breath here, and then we'll exhale. Left hand comes down on either side of the left foot. Right toes are going to tuck under, and we're going to come into our sort of modified pyramid pose, not going into the full pose here, but allowing that left knee to start to straighten. Allow the right heel to start trying to find the earth here. It's really nice if you have blocks handy. I'll grab a block right now just to kind of demonstrate how a block could be used here. We use 2 blocks on either side, one on either side of that left foot. And so you can press down into the blocks with your hands, just like giving yourself arm extenders. So now you can get just a little bit more into that pose. And remember, with pyramid, we're thinking about the right hip pulling forward slightly and the left hip pulling back. Really deepen into that hamstring stretch. All right, so I'm going to remove my blocks here, because we're going to go from here. We're going to step back with the left foot into a downward facing dog. First down dog of the day. Maybe pedal out the feet just a little bit. Heels lift, heels lower. Knees bend, knees straighten. And just sort of bicycling through our pose here. And then see if you can power up that left foot. We're going to lift the right heel straight up towards the ceiling. And see if you can use the glutes primarily here by bringing the pubic bone a little bit down towards the mat. So you're just trying to kind of get the hip to extend a little bit more by moving the pelvis instead of by moving the hip. And then roll the pinky toe out so it's lifting up towards the ceiling, and bend the right knee as we start to lift a little bit higher, bringing that right foot up towards the ceiling, twisting and opening. And take a breath here. On the exhale, we'll bring that right knee to touch the left elbow. All right, now let's bring those core muscles in. So we inhale back up, bringing the right knee up. On the exhale, gently squeeze the pelvic floor, Mula Bandha, and come forward. Right knee touches left elbow. And then inhale, release Mula Bandha. Leg straight, leg bent, whichever one you like. Exhale, tighten Mula Bandha. Bring that right knee towards the left elbow, and then straighten out the right leg. So you're coming into a cross-legged. You're going to be stretching the outer hip here, those muscles that we just worked a lot. So the right leg crosses under the left arm as we come into a stretch. Take one more breath here. And then we'll inhale, come back up just into a 3-legged dog. Right leg comes down, knees come down. Come into a nice stretch of your low back, your glutes, your shoulders. Maybe even lower your forearms down. Give your wrist a little bit of TLC, moving in one direction and then the other direction. Notice the breath here. Notice what you need to do to take care of your body. A little bit of wrist range of motion should feel good about now. We spend a lot of times on our wrists here. All right, let's go and we'll catch up by doing the other side. So we're going to come up into our down dog. First, lift the left leg straight back, heels coming up towards the ceiling. And then bend the left knee, rock that left hip on top of the right hip, feeling that really nice stretch through the left side of the body. And then from here, see if you can bring your left knee to touch your right elbow. We'll inhale to lift up, open up, stacking the hips. Exhale, left knee to right elbow. Inhale again, opening up, stacking the hips. Exhale, squeeze pelvic floor, coming down to touch left knee to right elbow, and then straightening out that left leg so it's crossing underneath the right arm. We're getting a really nice stretch into the right hip and on down the right leg. Take a breath here. And then we'll inhale the leg straight back and we'll come back down into our rest positions. So focusing on maybe the forehead resting on the floor, tops of the feet flat. Come back to awareness of the deeper core muscles through the breath. Maybe exhaling and tightening the pelvic floor. One more breath here. And then we're going to start to come onto our belly. So lift the hips and we'll roll forward onto the forearms first, and then all the way flat onto the tummy. And then with your arms sort of as goalposts, we're going to start by lifting up just the arms towards the ceiling. So see if you can keep your forehead straight, flat, and we'll inhale the arms up and exhale the arms down. Spent a lot of time working on the arms and bearing weight on the arms today. So now just kind of exercising them in a little different way, inhaling up and exhaling down. Now just a little different focus with your back here. I want you to see if you can press the pubic bone down and bring the sit bones down towards the heels. So a little bit of locking in here with your glutes. We'll inhale the arms up and exhale the arms down, keeping that core engaged. If you like, you can gently squeeze Mula Bandha here to give even more stability. We'll inhale up and exhale down. And then release all that effort. And we're going to tuck the toes under on both feet and go ahead and lift your knees away from the earth. So your quadriceps are really tight here. As you do that, press the pubic bone down into the mat. Notice how your glutes will get a little more engaged here. And then gently lift your right foot just an inch or two. And then exhale, bring it down. Keep the integration of the pelvis here as you inhale the left leg up and exhale down. And then lower the knees down. Turn your head to one side. Maybe shift your hips from side to side. And then putting your forehead flat again, tuck the toes under.
See if you can press the pubic bone down into the mat. Lift your knees away. And now we're going to take the right leg and lift up, and the left arm and lift up. And you can keep on here in this sort of cactus arms if you want. That will be a little bit easier. Take one more breath here. Lower down. Keep the knees lifted, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So a gentle contraction of Mula Bandha to help stabilize, and then lift the left leg, lift the right arm. And then lower down, turn the left cheek to the mat, and shift your hips from side to side. So we're going to go from here into another stretch. So bring your right foot up towards the ceiling. If it's available, reach around with your right hand to grab the right ankle. Maybe you grab the top of the foot. If you have a strap handy, you could also use a strap for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to press the pubic bone down into the mat, and we're going to try to lift the right leg up towards the ceiling. Now there's a connection here where the right leg is trying to straighten and the right hand is preventing it from straightening. Pubic bone is pressing down into the mat. And if it's available, you can lift up everything away from the earth. Left arm lifts, left leg lifts, right leg is bent and in the bind with the right hand. Take one more breath here and then lower down. So that was a half bow pose. Shift your hips from side to side. If you've been practicing bow and you want to go into the full pose, you certainly can. The rest of us are going to go into the half bow. So bring your left knee up, reach around and bind with your left hand at the ankle or the foot. Press the pubic bone down into the mat and start to lift up the left leg. Left foot presses into left hand. Left hand pulls the left foot towards the body. So we're getting a nice isometric here. And we breathe in and breathe out. When you're ready, if you're ready, lift everything away from the mat and stretch into that left hip, left quadriceps. Engage in the glutes. Take one more breath here. And then we'll exhale, lower down. Left leg comes down and we shift from side to side. And then with a little bit of effort, move over onto your back. We're going to come into our bridge position. Bridge is another really great way to work on the core stability and to layer on the effort from the deep muscles to the more superficial muscles. So get to where your feet are flat. The knees, the feet might be a little bit more further down the mat than your knees are. They don't have to be stacked on top of each other necessarily for what we're doing here. But I do want you to be thinking about gently pressing the back of the head down and pressing the shoulder blades down. So you really are engaging the upper body as well as the lower body. We're going to take your breath in. On the exhale, gently tighten Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor, and start to lift your hips up towards the ceiling. So here, there's lots of options. I want you to really be firmly pressing down with your shoulder blades. And if you'd like, you can bring your hands together underneath the body and press down even more firmly. See if you can just enjoy the positioning here as the feet are pressing down, the shoulders are pressing down. And then take one more breath here. We're going to come up onto the toes on the inhale, and we're going to gently tighten Mula Bandha first, and then roll down the spine one vertebrae at a time until you come all the way down and rest in a neutral spine position. Heels come down, feet a little wider here, and we'll windshield wiper your knees from side to side. This is your rest position, your counter pose, if you will, for all the efforts that we put forth during the bridge pose. When you're ready, we'll come back to center. You can do exactly what we did last time, but I'm going to take you just a little further for those of you who want to join me. We'll take a breath in, breathe out, gently squeeze pelvic floor and lift up. And then from here, really feeling the integration of the feet, we're going to power up that right leg a little bit more and see if your left leg can lift up just a little bit. And then come back down. Might get a little Charlie horse in your hamstrings here. We're going to power up the left leg, get Mula Bandha involved, and bring your right knee up. A little bit of a march here, coming back down, come up on the toes, and roll down the spine one vertebrae at a time. And then we'll take the feet wide and we'll windshield wiper from side to side. Remember that your body tells you where your limits are, and that anytime I ask you to do something that doesn't feel good, doesn't resonate with you, there's always options. There's always options to not participate. There's options to get into a different pose or different position that feels more meaningful to you. Now take a breath in. On the exhale, we're going to gently squeeze Mula Bandha, and we're going to lift the hips up. Press down with the feet. Press down with the shoulders to really get that back sling of muscles going. Mula Bandha contracts. We're going to press a little bit more with the right foot, bring the left knee up, and bring the right arm up, almost like a running position. The arm can be bent at the elbow. See if you can stay here for one more breath. And then we'll exhale, bring that right arm down, left foot down, power up the left leg, right knee bends, left arm comes up, or sort of this running man position, lower back down, come up on the toes, and we'll go down the vertebrae all the way down to the mat. Bring the feet wide, we windshield wiper from side to side. Noticing breath, noticing release of tension. And then we're going to do one more where we move through the sequence just a little bit faster. Remember, staying in a well-performed bridge can be just as good as these more advanced poses. So take your breath in, breathe out, gently squeeze Mula Bandha as we lift up. We press down through feet and arms to really feel that bridge. And then if you want to go a little further with us, we're going to press down onto the right. We're going to inhale up, exhale down, right leg, left arm lifts up, comes down, left leg, right arm up and down, right leg, left arm up and down. And we'll go one more time. Just doing that sort of a inverted running man, if you will. Really work on getting the posterior elements of the spine and legs and hips working. rolling down the spine. We'll come all the way down and bring the knees into the chest, making some circles with the knees one direction. And then we'll go back the other direction. Just noticing the rest after all of that work. Notice where the breath feels like it needs to go here. And then we're going to take your hands behind the knees and come into our sort of happy baby position with the knees nice and wide. Go ahead and take your right arm and with the elbow inside the right knee, see if you can grab the outside of the right foot. Now, if that's not happening for you, you can still leave the arms underneath the knees and just pull into this really nice squatting position. But we're going to take the left arm, left elbow inside the left knee, left hand grabs the outside of the right foot. And there's a connection here between arms and knees. So if your hands are holding, you can find that connection with your hands and your legs, where there's a little bit of a pressing in of the knees and a pressing out with the arms. So it really helps to stabilize the position. So again, we're doing an upside down squat. So the same principles would apply if you were in a upright squat. And between all that effort, see if you can find the breath. And maybe even see if you can find a movement of Mula Bandha, a contraction of the pelvic floor that works on the exhale. Talk you through that. So inhale to release. Exhale, gently squeeze pelvic floor. Noticing that it's not going to feel probably as strong in this position because we're not letting any of the other partner muscles help it out. So take one more breath here. Exhale, gently squeeze pelvic floor. And then we'll bring the knees back into the chest and lower them down. Whatever pose you need to do here, if you need to do some more windshield wipers here to kind of get your low back going, we're going to go into some lower body stretches. I have my strap here, so I'm going to demonstrate with a strap. You can use any kind of belt that you have around the house. If you want to use your robe belt, or if you want to just use your hands, you can certainly do that too. But I'm going to take the belt, the strap, and wrap it around my forefoot, just past the arch of my foot. And I'm going to work on straightening out that right leg, pulling the foot down towards the mat, towards my head, and get a really nice stretch into the hamstrings here. To make it more meaningful, I'm going to start to straighten out my left leg. So you can see here, we're really pretty much in that pyramid position, right? So upside down though, so we're kind of in that same pyramid pose, but stretching into the hamstrings. Take a breath here, breathing in and breathing out. See if you can, if you're feeling a lot of stretch in the back of the thigh, you can always bend that left knee just a little bit, and that should help some. And see if you can flex the toes on your left foot. So you're bringing the left toes towards your head. Again, kind of replicating that pyramid pose. And from here, we're going to let that right leg drift out towards the right. You can hold the strap with your right hand and leave your, bring your left arm out to the side to kind of balance the stretch of the inner thigh here. So we did something similar when we were standing, where we stretched into the right inner thigh. Now we've got, instead of your body weight pressing into it and stretching, we've got the force of gravity stretching. So notice what that feels like. See if you can keep your breath nice and steady. And then we'll bring the leg back to center. Grab the strap with your left hand. Right arm is going to come out to the side. and the right leg drifts over to the left. You can turn your head to look over to the right if that's comfortable to your neck. See if you can really feel the stretch all the way down to the outside of the ankle here, starting at the hip. We worked those hip muscles quite a bit today. I want you to really work on stretching them open and feeling, helping the blood flow into that area. One more breath here. And then we'll bring the leg back to center. Bring the other leg into join. Say hello. We got a double hamstring stretch going on here. Very similar to other poses that we do in yoga. We do Paschimottanasana and sitting. So this is like a version of that, but we're doing it in an upside down position. Take one more breath here, and then we'll leave the left foot in the strap. Bring the right foot down, working on really stretching through the back of the left leg, and try to mosey that right leg down straighter if you can, if it's available. Pulling the right toes towards the head. Really integrate that right leg. My left leg's a lot tighter than my right. This has taken me quite a bit of effort to do this. So notice if there's a difference right to left. We'll start to grab the belt or the strap in your left hand and allow the left leg to come out to the side with your right arm coming out to counterbalance that force. A lot of effort going into this. If you like, you can turn your head the opposite way. Really work on stretching into that left leg, keeping the right leg as an anchor, a balance point, pressing the right buttocks down. Take one more breath here, and then we'll come back to center. Grab the strap in your right hand, left arm goes out to the side, and we bring the left leg across the body, left arm counterbalancing. You can feel that stretch all the way down from the left hip to the left knee, all the way down to the ankle. We breathe in and we breathe out. Come back to center here, stretching up towards the ceiling, bringing the right foot in to join its counterpart. Go back to that double hamstring stretch. Just a breath or two. And then lower both legs down towards the mat. You can move your strap, set it aside. And now we're going to place the right leg over the left thigh, coming into our figure 4 stretch, sort of like an upside down pigeon. And then you can stay here, or you can grab underneath the left thigh and start to bring the whole complex closer to your chest. You should feel a stretch into the outside back of the right hip here. If you flex the right foot and flex the left foot, you'll get a little bit more integration of the pose here. So take your breath in, breath out. In this position, my right arm is able to kind of make a connection with my right thigh. And there can be a little bit of an extra assist on the part of your right elbow if you're finding that connection as well. Take the breath in, breath out. And then if you left your left foot on the floor, you can just lower the right one down and switch legs. Those of us who have lifted our left foot, we're going to grab underneath the right thigh and just switch in midair. So we're going to now switch legs, bring the left ankle to the top of the right thigh, feet are flexed. There's a pulling
towards, and a little bit of a pushing away with my left arm into my left inner thigh. A little bit of an extra assist, a little bit extra stretch there. Take the breath in and the breath out. Spread your toes apart. That's available to you. Sometimes we do that as a breathing exercise. So inhaling, the toes spread. Exhaling, the toes come together. Not forgetting all those little muscles in our feet. We inhale to open. We exhale to close. Toe yoga here. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. And then uncross your legs. Bring both knees into the chest for just a really nice stretch through the back of the body. Shoulder blades still pressing into the mat to open up across the chest and broaden through the shoulders. And then bring your feet back down to plant onto the floor. Arms are going to come back into our goal pose. And we're going to bring the knees over to the right. Lots of options here to make this more meaningful to you. You can take your top arm and give yourself just a little bit of an assist on the top leg and draw yourself down towards the floor a little bit more. Do this only if you can keep your left shoulder blade and left arm down. The drishti over the left arm, and we breathe in and breathe out. Starting to let go of all the effort that we've gone through for the past hour. Let go of our assist if we were doing that, and bring the knees back to center. And really grounding down the right shoulder blade, bringing the legs over to the left. The drishti over the right arm. And again, allowing yourself to have a little assist if that feels meaningful to you. Stretching into the outside of the right hip, the right lumbar spine. And with the right shoulder reaching, we can get even more into those shoulder muscles, into the neck muscles as well. Find a place that feels sustainable without too much effort. And breathe. Take one more breath here. And when you're ready, I'm going to have you gently tighten Mula Bandha as you come back to center. Give yourself that deeper stability. Legs are going to come down to meet the mat. You can leave your arms at this T, or you can put them up in a Y, or you can bring them down a little bit more at about a 45-degree angle. The legs also going down into a 45-degree angle, give or take, might be 30. Just let it be comfortable to your body as we go into our final pose, which is Shavasana. Allowing ourselves to reap the benefits of the practice. Allow our bodies the needed rest from the effort, practicing. In our Shavasana, it's where everything starts to gel. We start to recognize ourselves and our bodies as different entities. To be able to see the body from the vantage point of breath. Time of observation, but a time of quiet as well. So quiet focus.
if you will. We'll start to invite some movements into our fingers and into our toes. Those of you who are watching this video later, feel free to pause the video and stay in Shavasana as long as you need to. Many times in Shavasana, we're met with outside interferences, noises, bodily sensations that tend to distract us from our rest. Just notice your tendency to respond to that. Notice your ability to ignore and stay in the present moment without cause for concern. Moving your fingers, moving your hips, rolling them in and out. Notice that freedom of the movement in the joints. Start to raise your arms up overhead, reaching and opening the shoulders once again. Notice where the breath naturally wants to go. And then bringing the knees up, we'll roll over onto your right side, using your right arm as just a little bit of a prop here. And pausing for just a moment. Think about all that you're grateful for in this moment of time. Yoga gives us an opportunity to quiet our minds from the busyness and gives us time to reflect, enjoy being in the present moment. From Shavasana, the corpse pose, through our fetal position. And then life invites us back to come back up into a seated position. Coming back into a cross-legged position, balancing through the pelvis, bones of the pelvis. Pretty much sitting directly up on the sit bones here. See if you can feel a little bit of a broadening through shoulders. As the shoulders pull out towards the sides of the room. Bring our hands into a mudra where we bring the forefinger to the thumb, a symbol of unity. Back to the breath. Then we'll bring our hands in front of our heart center. Feeling the thumbs rest against the sternum. We'll close our practice today by saying one Om
feel like joining along, please feel free to do that. If you'd rather just hum, that's fine. If you'd rather skip it all together, that's fine as well. So we'll take a breath in together. Feel the vibration through our entire body as we do that gentle humming of Om, and we'll say Namaste. Light in me bows to the light in each one of you.